Now, cell phone data has taken center stage over the past few days. Just yesterday, a trial heard that calls weren't made to police or the ambulance service from those in the house when Meyiwa was shot. Let's unpack this forensic detail a little bit. We are joined by forensic expert Wayne Gordon on the line, as well as via Zoom, legal analyst Elton Hart. Gentlemen, good evening. Good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. Elton, let's begin with you. How tricky is this piece of evidence that we are dealing with right now? I mean, it sounds quite technical. For example, how profiling is done, how the linking of particular individuals to a number and to one another is done, and how does that particular technical aspect of it sway the decisions that are going to be taken around this case?
When one looks at data that is retrieved from any device or compiled by automated processes, one needs to look at the evidentiary aspects there too. So you will have originality, genuine and authenticity of it, and actually how it was preserved. So all these things play in to see if we can trust the evidence that's been placed before court. And on top of that, the person compiling, retrieving all those information needs to have the necessary skill to actually retrieve, process and preserve that information in its original state for the court to put heavy emphasis or rely on it to get a conviction. And here we see that a lot of technical information is being handed to court, and there is still additional things that needs to happen, like cell phone triangulation, but also one needs to now say, was this things retrieved, compiled and preserved so that it has not changed the information that we see on the documents that's printed out? Has the metadata that is attached to this information also not been changed in the retrieval, preservation and actually processing process? So all those things play in so that we can say that we can rely heavily on this, because at this point in time it will be circumstantial evidence, and then one needs to also look at the content of these cell phone linkings. What was the content of the communication that was had between the parties? So that still needs to come. And I don't think Lambertus Steyn or Sergeant Mabasa can actually, at this point in time, pinpoint what was the conversations between the accused persons and Kelly Khumalo, although we can say safely say that we can see there was communication between them. We don't know what's the content to say that there was a conspiracy to commit crime or to conceal or defeat the ends of justice. So that's where we are, and that's I'm seeing where this defense is currently working at.
Yeah. Wayne, something that was rather explosive for us, certainly, coming out of yesterday was the fact that the lawyer for the defense saying that, well, the cell phone number that you say could be linked to one of the accused is actually not registered in the name of the accused. And the question that emerges, and then therefore, how is the linking then done? Can you help us through that?
Yeah, sure. Elton, yeah, I agree with you 100%, but obviously the linkage hasn't been successfully done as yet. Obviously the RICA aspect, the Act, hasn't come into proper play, because obviously there's manipulation of that, and the network obviously needs to be investigated, not necessarily to the content, but just the linkage of the numbers that were associated with the persons that were involved, on site, on the scene, as well as obviously the accused. So Elton, I agree with you with regards to that.
Now, as far as now where we are, where it is said that there is a possible link between a particular number to an accused who is not registered to be the owner of that number, how is the linking done then?
The linkage, unfortunately, on via RICA was obviously meant to be the regulation of and the interception of communication and the provision of communication-related information, and that is very, very difficult to obviously prove because of the SIM cards or the pre-registration SIM cards of linking it. The tower information, which can be acquired by obviously Section 205, needs to generate that information, and it could be a spiderweb or a network of numbers, that were associated with the accused, first of all.
And what is the room for error here in this particular instance, where you could be sitting and thinking, well, the state has got some kind of a smoking gun, but actually it turns out to be a non-issue?
Yeah, sure. The thing is, and I think a lot more investigation needs to be done, and analysis into the related numbers, that were associated on the tower, and also mentioned triangulation, which is a sort of more complex, from the network perspective. Depending on load shedding, even a massive, aspect to it, where numbers will hop to different knocks associated with those towers. So triangulation, yes, very important. If that can be identified, with the correlation of information that can be attained via or from the networks, under the RICO regulations.
Mm-hmm. And Elton, of course, we are as you mentioned earlier on, almost going in the direction where we are saying there was some kind of conspiring amongst all these accused, and as it turns out, if it goes in that direction with some of the people who were in the house. How important is then, therefore, the detail of their conversations as to what was actually said, and whether or not this case could fall or be a success based on that?
When one looks at it, and because we know now from just public knowledge, Kelly Khumalo and Zandile Khumalo are singers, dancers, artists. So the fact that somebody was communicating with her on the number that is saved as Kelly Khumalo bookings, she can easily raise a defense to say, listen, yeah, they phoned me for a booking. They wanted me to come and do a gig for them at some venue. So there's nothing illegal about that communication. Communication between two parties at any given stage is not illegal. One needs to tap into what is the content that is communicated between the parties. Is it to conspire to commit a crime? And if the state can't prove that, if the state don't have the information, and I know it's going to be very difficult for the state to get the information, because we know Lambertus Steyn also testified to say that some of the information was deleted from the devices. So can that information be retrieved? He said it's difficult, it's nearly impossible. So that already, it's an uphill battle for the state. And just the fact that there was communication between the parties doesn't say enough has happened. Yes, we can say that, okay, there's communication. Now, the reason why I refer to cell phone triangulation, and I know, and Wayne now referred to maybe load shedding that can send it to different knock. I know they testified already. Zandile Khumalo said they were watching a football game. So I'm 100% sure at that stage in the Vosloorus area, there was not load shedding. So I know that for a fact. So we should be seeing that they present evidence on cell phone triangulation to place the accused persons in a triangular close to the Khumalo home. Then we know on circumstantial evidence, but it's not the only thing. The state will need to bring more evidence, but at least you can place them in the vicinity of the crime to say that they either was involved or helped with the commission of the crime. So just to narrow it down, but it's not as easy as I'm saying it, but the state can use that as an avenue to actually get. Otherwise, if they can't prove it, that information that Sergeant Mabasa and Colonel Lambertus Steyn is bringing to the table then becomes sort of half useless information. Yes, it shows that there's a link, but then it becomes useless because it does not yet prove beyond reasonable, not even beyond reasonable doubt that there is a collusion or a conspiracy to commit a crime or conceal a crime that was committed.
Yeah, a big question around the accused, I think it's accused number 3, and the dreadlocks, and now photos being found to indicate that indeed it is accused number 3. Is that a win for the state in a sense, in terms of the identity?
It just proves that somebody had, accused number 3 had dreadlocks at any stage. One needs to now look at the 220 admissions that he made. Did he say that I never had dreadlocks? Did he make a statement where he said I never had dreadlocks? Then one can say, but why did you lie in your statement or your warning statement to say you never had dreadlocks, knowing full well you had dreadlocks? Yes, they said that one of the intruders had dreadlocks. But I mean, identity is still an issue, because at an ID parade where these people were, nobody could actually point them out. And Zandile Khumalo, she even said no, they looked at these people and they could identify. Then she was like, not so sure anymore. So identity becomes a issue. yes, he had dreadlocks. But is he the only South African with dreadlocks that's dark in complexion? I don't think so. That height. So there's a lot of questions, and if the court is not sure, they cannot convict. So there's a little bit more that you need to say that he had dreadlocks. Maybe other witnesses that saw him, and already from the witnesses we can see that some of them say they saw them from the back, they saw them running, they didn't have a close look, and all the stories. So it's sort of it's tricky, but there is evidence that indicates maybe they were there or they know something about the crime, but it's not at this point where I can say it's clear-cut to get a conviction for the state.
Elton Hart, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on Legal Analyst. Elton Hart and Wayne Gordon, their forensic expert with Trinitas Forensics, helping us in that conversation.